Hey guys, Metal Jesus here, and as you guys know, I recently got a Steam Deck, and I am loving it. And you guys know me, one of the first things I had to do was put a bunch of racing games on it, and so that's what I'm going to share with you today. Here are 6 racing games I have been playing recently on my Steam Deck, starting with Blur. Many years ago, I mentioned the console version of Blur as a hidden gem, and I'll tell you what, I stand by that remark. This is technically the first time I played it on the PC, but as you can see from this gameplay footage, it runs amazingly well on the Steam Deck. Technically, it was delisted a while ago, and I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe it's because it has so many licensed cars in it? I'm not really sure. Think of this game as a mix of Need for Speed and also Mario Kart. So you race around these realistic levels, very similar to Need for Speed, and as I mentioned, you have the licensed cars. But like Mario Kart, you pick up power-ups and you're trying to take out all of these opponents. And the weapons range from speed boosts to missiles that you can fire at cars. You can summon these lightning traps that will pepper the roadway and you'll have to try to avoid them, and a lot more. You'll notice that the driving physics feel really good here. Again, very similar to Need for Speed, and there's a ton of variety in the track design and also the race types. Listen, this game should have been huge, and fans of arcade racing games like me, we're still singing its praises today. So if you haven't played this game before, you need to do it as soon as possible. It's awesome. Next up is kind of a strange one. It is called Buck Up and Drive, and this is definitely something completely different. I bought this game on a whim. I was just browsing the Steam store, saw that it got some decent reviews, and figured I would check it out. This is an arcade racing game unlike any other. Now, it looks kind of like Outrun, has that sort of retro vibe to it, but as you can see, it is way twitchier. Basically, the car auto-accelerates, but you need to hit those green pads that are sitting on the road for speed boosts or jumps in order to make those checkpoints, all before the time runs out. You probably noticed that while in the air, you can do some insane twists and turns, as well as land on those rails for a better score. Plus, there is a drift mechanic for your car, but it's not exactly as fluid or smooth as Outrun. It's easy to do, but very tough to master. Now, you're going to want to use that when you want to get even more boost, especially at the beginning of a stage. It's a simple and frankly insane arcade racing game, but pretty fun if you have a couple minutes or two and you're not looking for something too deep or challenging. I want to be very curious to know down in the comments if you have played this game and what you think about it. Next up is a game called Redout. So recently the sequel to this game was just announced, so it's coming very soon, but I figured I would mention the original here since I've been playing it this last couple weeks. And as you can see by this gameplay footage, basically this is a love letter to Wipeout, but I will say it is a very good one. It's very well made. Check out the amazing sense of speed in this game. You really have to pay attention when you are going around those corners and hitting some of those crazy jumps. This game is one of those games where, again, you're afraid to blink, right? If you blink, you're just gonna just slam into a wall. There is a career mode where you can buy and upgrade your hovercraft, as well as go through more and more challenging courses. The reason why this game is called Redout is because you need to pay attention to the G-forces while you're racing. If they get too strong, either going up or down, you can black out or red out. So you end up controlling the pitch of the nose of your craft and try to prevent yourself from, like I said, blacking out or redding out. So it adds a little twist to the game. This is a really solid arcade racing game. It's super fun, and I'm very curious to check out the sequel when it comes out soon. Next up is a game I'm very excited to talk about, but it's going to be a bit of a controversial one. Not because it isn't good, but because when it first came out, fans of Ridge Racer, well, they were kind of scratching their heads. Let me get this out of the way. This is not your typical Ridge Racer game. This one was developed by Bugbear. That developer was behind some of the more kind of realistic arcade racing games like Flatout and also Wreckfest. And because of that, this looks and plays completely different than the previous Ridge Racer games. But honestly, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think this game just should never have used the Ridge Racer name. What you got here is a game that's a mix of, say, Burnout and Need for Speed, or maybe Split Second if you're familiar with that one. One of my favorite things about this game is that when you build up enough power, you can create your own paths in the level. So, for instance, just rocketing through a building, landing on some rooftops, blowing through that, and then landing on the road. It's awesome. Now, Ridge Racer is known for drifting. That's what that franchise is all about. But again, it feels very different here. And yeah, it's going to take some getting used to. When I first started playing this game, I was horrible at it because, again, I'm used to normal Ridge Racer and this just feels completely different. However, after a couple races, you will get the hang of it and, hopefully you'll start to like it like I do. Also, it goes without saying that the level design is much more realistic, but I do like how interactive it all is. This is a surprisingly awesome arcade racing game, if you can forgive that it's a very different one from the previous Ridge Racer games in the franchise. Again, if you can get past that, I'm telling you, you might have some fun here. Here's a game I've been playing for decades now. I originally got Slipstream 5000 probably back in 1995 or so for my MS-DOS computer, and I loved it then, and I have to say, it mostly holds up today. Basically, it's a futuristic air combat / racing game, and for the time, these 3D graphics, they were pretty great. They blew me away back in the day. Now, obviously today, it looks a little rough and it's retro looking, but I would argue that the gameplay is still very solid. And thankfully, it runs really well on the Steam Deck. Now, you do have to turn down the sensitivity of the thumbsticks, and you end up going in and remapping some of the keyboard buttons to, match what's on the Steam Deck. But once you do that, you're good to go. And so that's what's really cool about having the Steam Deck, is that you have a portable computer that can play, brand new games, but also games that are 10, 20 years old, and some of them that are even older than that. So it does kind of everything. Speaking of, let's check out Need for Speed Underground. This is the Gamecube version. Now, I mentioned in my previous Steam Deck video that I was messing around with a bunch of emulators, getting them to run on the Steam Deck. Well, the Dolphin emulator runs GameCube games extremely well. And dude, I remember when Need for Speed Underground first came out, me and my buddy Paul, we played this game for not just weeks, but probably months. I mean, when it came out, the look of the city was such a real departure from other racing games that we were playing at the time. I just love the nighttime look of it. I just love how it's kind of wet and reflective on the road. We take it for granted today, but back in the day, man, this game was beautiful. We especially got obsessed with upgrading our licensed cars too. That was one of the fun things, that you could find your car that you owned or that maybe you wanted to own, and then you would upgrade it. And often you found in this game that even the smallest performance upgrades would make a huge difference in races. And so that was really cool. Again, I don't think I'd ever spent so much time upgrading cars. Maybe in Gran Turismo before that, but I don't know. There's something about this game that we became obsessed with it. We also loved the drag racing mode here. Trying to get that perfect launch off the line and then shift at just the right moment. Man, it's tough at first, especially when they start introducing traffic, but we would get obsessed with this and we would just replay drag races over and over again just to get those, perfect times. And so I have to admit, I'm kind of sucked back into Need for Speed Underground again this week. Going through it brand new, trying to unlock everything, and yeah, it plays great on the Steam Deck. That's just some of the racing games I've been playing on my Steam Deck lately. Of course, these games are also available on just regular PC, so you don't have to have a Steam Deck to play these. So I would love to know down in the comments what other games you think I should definitely check out. And as always, guys, I want to thank you for watching my channel. Thank you so much for subscribing, and take care.